Chapter 10. Anders lay on the cold cell floor, holding himself, body trembling. Around him in crumpled heaps were baby wipes, stained bloody and brown with earthy-like colours. He was clean now, and without the camouflage of dirt. His cuts and scratches appeared much redder, like raked markings on pale skin, which came mostly down to the sides of his arms and legs. That bush, he kept thinking, that bloody bush. He cursed the bush. He cursed Sammy too. The big bastard had left him bruised with a purple patch across his back, of good size, the size of a big bastard's knee, he thought, touching it now with his fingers, facing a red brick wall. For a while he just lay there staring. Then he began bunching together the dirty wipes, and he crawled with them to a dark place underneath a long wooden board which hung from the wall by 2 chains. This was his bed, and on top was a hard mattress encased in plastic with a pillow. Underneath the bed was a bucket where he disposed of the wipes. At the back of the cell, facing a thick and heavy-looking door, was an old-fashioned toilet, with a water tank above and a chain that dangled on one side. That was all. The rest of his cell was empty, and he was thankful not to be sharing with anyone else. He got up now, as though suffering vertigo, slowly easing himself onto the mattress. The plastic coating stuck to his skin, and he clenched both fists, feeling the saltiness of other people's sweat burning into his wounds. Then he paused. There was fighting in the corridor, and he listened. Guards clattered into his door, as though grappling with someone, pulling and pushing someone into the cell next door to Anders. A body hit the deck. Boots retreated. A door slammed, and keys jangled, twisting in the lock. I guess they brought me a neighbour, Anders thought.
Bastards! His neighbour said angrily. No one drops Maniac and gets away with it,
he added, referring to himself. Maniac was a small, stocky man with a pit bull terrier-like neck. His shaved head showed many scars. His face was tattooed with numbers and barcodes. He got up, bouncing on his feet with his fists raised, shadowboxing, hissing as he jabbed.
Is someone there?
He asked, slapping both hands on the wall. Then he was jabbing again. Hiss, hiss.
Relax, cell 4, or we'll go again,
a guard yelled from the corridor.
One doesn't obtain the name Maniac by taking orders,
Maniac yelled back.
Who's next door to me?
He put his face on the wall.
What are you in for, neighbour? Fighting?
Anders stayed on his mattress, silently facing the smoky-coloured ceiling and its cobwebs above him.
Don't hold your tongue. Answer me.
Maniac was jabbing and hissing again.
Answer me. I've cracked heads for less.
No, not fighting, Anders said sullenly. I'm no fighter.
No problem,
Maniac said.
That's why God invented cherry bombs. We can't all succeed with our fists. Lucky for me, I'm good with both.
There was a period of silence before he continued.
You got a name?
He asked, but again there was silence.
Don't leave me waiting, neighbour.
Maniac began jabbing again, jabbing and hissing. Apologies, my name is...
Shush,
Maniac said.
You shush now.
Maniac squatted by his cell door. His ear was on the keyhole.
Those bastards are saying stuff,
he said.
Stuff about me.
No one was speaking. It was silent.
Okay, sounds okay. I bet the bastards knew I was listening. Now, where were we?
My name, Anders said. Call me Lindsay.
That won't do,
Maniac said.
That's a shitty name, a girly name. From now on, you're called Disciple. Understand that? Now repeat it to me. You're Disciple, yes?
I'm Disciple, Anders whispered.
Louder,
Maniac commanded, crisscrossing his hands behind his back. Disciple, my name is Disciple. Anders sat up and shouted.
Your name will be Daffy Duck in the loony bin if you speak like that again, Cell 5,
a guard yelled, tapping his baton against Anders' door. Now pipe down.
Ignore them,
Maniac said.
Explain now, what you in for?
There was silence. Then Maniac reminded Anders about his tendency to crack heads. Not sure, Anders said. I blanked out, had too much fear.
I appreciate that. We all been there and done that.
Yeah, sure. You know what it's like, Anders said.
Well, you seem pretty eager to know what I'm in. Guess a guy has no secrets in here, so I'll go right out and say it, shall I?
There was a pause, silence. Anders was thinking about the guard, the one that brought him in. He wondered where he'd gone. He was supposed to be fetching him some spare clothes, but that was over an hour ago. Now he wondered how long he'd been naked for. Actually, how long? Half a day?
You guessed it,
Maniac said without cue.
I got agitated. I smashed a bottle of Tui's over some hotshot's head. And yes, before you judge me, the prick deserved it. No one asks Maniac if it's hot outside. Not when they can clearly see. They saw my nose and forehead were sunburnt.
Sounds like you were asking for some, Anders said.
Yeah, Maniac agreed. And he got some too.
Then he laughed. Anders peeled his body away from the mattress, turning onto his side, facing the red bricks. For a while, he listened to Maniac. Showbox round his cell, jabbing, hissing. Then there was silence. Then heavy breathing. He was at the wall again.
Where's home, disciple?
He asked.
You sound different. You sound Irish to me.
Donegal, Anders said. Ireland, as you guessed.
Ah, yes, Ireland.
Maniac smiled.
They enjoy a drink and a fight, my kind of place. Maybe there's hope for you yet, disciple.
Maniac said, crouching, scuttling near to his door.
Shush now, they're coming.
Anders made no sound.
I said shush, damn it.
Boots trod down the corridor. Keys swung. Both sounds grew closer. Anders stood, pulling his bare skin off the mattress. It peeled away like wet dough on a baker's board. Then he cupped his hand over his penis and sat back down again. The sound of boots and keys stopped suddenly. A guard appeared outside his cell. He was a broad-shouldered and muscular man, tall and neat. His hair was dark, slicked back, wet and shiny. His uniform of trousers and shirt were thorn-coloured, and his sleeves were turned over, showing tanned arms. On Anders' cell door was a piece of square glass, and suddenly the guard's face appeared there. He chewed gum while watching Anders through his aviator sunglasses, stubby chin pressed on the glass, breathing on it. Then he entered.
Dress,
he said, chucking a balled-up t-shirt on Anders' lap, dropping flip-flops by his feet and standing over him with his thumbs tucked inside his belt buckle.
Who's that?
Maniac asked, facing the wall.
Talk to me, disciple.
Anders brought one hand up, plugged both nostrils with his fingers. The t-shirt reeked of sick and seriously strong body odour. The armpits had crusted over, giving it a different texture to the rest of the t-shirt, which had relatively soft linen. On the front, seeming rather pleased with himself, was a faded print of Jason Donovan. Anders took solace in that, was happy it had faded, was also happy that the t-shirt was extra large, since the guard had not brought any pants. Anders imagined a woman of real size wearing it during the 80s, front row screaming over Donovan's lyrics, and somewhere between then and now, various tramps had wore it in the cells like this one, pissed on it, sweated on it, possibly wiped their asses dry on it. And judging by the smug look on Donovan's face, Anders could see a temptation in that.
What's going on in there?
Maniac asked.
Shut it,
a random guard said, striding past the cells, tapping his baton on Maniac's door.
I'm just warming up,
Maniac replied, and ragging his mattress from its wooden board, he began flipping it around his cell, repeatedly, then propped it up on the wall and using it as a punch bag. Hiss, hiss, hiss.
You want some brekkie?
The guard asked Anders over the sound of Maniac hitting the mattress. Hiss, hiss. I think so, Anders said, looking at the t-shirt. What do we have on the menu?
This isn't the Ritz, fella,
the guard said, resting a boot on the brick wall. Anders laughed. I guess not. I think the beds and the stinky toilet gave that away. The guard yawned on the back of his wrist. He looked at Anders and lowered his aviators. Anders saw now that he was bog-eyed and wasn't sure where he was looking, though it seemed to be near his crotch. He laughed nervously. The guard smiled, then he began laughing too.
Better not be laughing at me,
Maniac said. He left the mattress, came back to the wall.
Update me, disciple,
he said.
If you're part of this, there'll be trouble.
He waited by the wall, breathless from his workout.
What's so funny?
The guard asked with a smile that showed all his teeth.
Anders shrugged. You left. Was there a joke?
The guard asked again, smile fading.
Nothing,
Anders said.
it was nothing.
You left though. Why was that?
The guard pushed his aviators back over his eyes and chewed gum.
Don't answer that, disciple,
Maniac said on the other side of the wall.
That's a trick question. Be careful now.
Not sure.
Anders shrugged again.
It was nothing.
Nice,
Maniac said encouragingly. The guard walked up and down the cell. Then he stopped. He looked over his boots, both black and shiny like his hair.
Okay, look now, slugger. It's like this, he said. We got eggs, eggs, and more eggs. Now, do you want some or not? Because you and that clown next door are beginning to test me. There's a clown next door, huh?
Maniac said, moving his fingers to the side of his face.
That's good, he said. Disciple, make contact with this clown. We may be able to recruit him.
He paused for a second, as though thinking. Fingers now stopped on his chin.
But don't get excited, he said. A new recruit doesn't guarantee your promotion.
Both Anders and the guard ignored him.
So, eggs then?
The guard asked.
Yes.
Anders agreed, sounding more Swedish than usual.
You sure about that?
The guard said.
You don't sound very pleased, rather ungrateful if you ask me. And what's with this yish? Shit. Has Sean Connery turned up for something?
Sorry, yes. I would much appreciate some eggs.
Okay. How does 007 like his eggs?
Fried, runny yolk, pinch of salt.
Anders spoke fast. He didn't care much about the eggs. He just wanted the guard gone so he could dress into the awful smelling t-shirt without the guard's wandering eyes all over him.
Boy, you know your eggs, the guard laughed. Don't take them eggs, disciple, Maniac said, slapping the wall. That's an order. We only do, Scramby, the guard said, both choosing to ignore Maniac again.
What's Scramby?
Anders asked, watching the guard disappear into the corridor.
Thence, take note, the guard said. We got a moron in cell 5.
Anders read the number 5 on his cell door and shook his head.
Copy that, big day,
Lance said from the corridor, sat with paperwork across his long legs, tuna fish sandwich in his hand.
Moron, I hear you. Leave him alone, piggy bastards, Maniac said, joining in, pulling up his shorts, laughing as 2 men appeared at his window. Come in if you like, I've done something for you.
The men stepped backwards slowly, hands over their mouths. Maniac danced circles around what he had done.
Where are you going? He said. Get me out!
He put his face on the window.
It stinks in here!
Big D stayed in the corridor laughing as they retreated. One was now leaning forward, retching. Lance pointed with his tuna fish sandwich. Then he reached into his knapsack, pulled out a flask.
Rookies, AD. Rookies. Better learn fast.
He topped a small cup with coffee.
They just don't have the stomach.
Big D turned back to Anders now.
Scrambled, he said. Scramby means scrambled.
I see,
Anders said, blinking.
In that case, I'll take scrambled.
He spread the t-shirt over his thighs as though it was a napkin, smoothed out the creases with his palms, and checked it was hiding his penis.
Okay,
Big D said, coming back into the cell.
Okay then.
He'd been there over 10 minutes now. Clothes dropped off. Breakfast ordered. So why, Anders thought, why was he still hanging round like a bad fart under the bedding, doing laps, hands crossed behind his back, watching him on that clammy mattress? A mattress Anders had to be careful on to move on as slow as possible. But some noises escaped him, and now and then his bottom would get hot and squelch on the plastic. Big D turned sharply, hearing such a squelch. He stared vigorously from beneath his aviators and began grinning.
We do fine scramby eggs here, slugger, he said, taking a big step forward.
Oh,
Anders said.
That's nice. Will you be ordering them soon?
Anders thought the question might prompt Big D to leave, but he was silent, poking his finger between 2 bricks, messing with a loose chunk of mortar.
I'm ready for them, I think.
Anders went on, but Big D did not engage in conversation, so he smiled and kept talking.
I remember putting one in the microwave once.
He wasn't even sure what he was saying now, but he continued regardless.
I'd not removed the shell. Made a fabulous explosion.
A chunk of mortar fell. It bounced across the concrete, broke in 2 pieces and clinked on the tin can under the bed. Big D squatted. As before, he lowered his aviators, and as before, Anders guessed where those wonky eyes of his were staring. He felt for the t-shirt.
Are you dressing or what?
Big D said.
Shush!
Maniac said, jabbing the wall.
I'm interested in the egg story. Disciple mentioned an explosion. You can talk eggs day and night where you're going, Cell 4. Lance laughed in the corridor. And as for explosions, you'll be doing plenty in your shorts.
Big D leaned into the corridor. Near to Lance was a team of 4 people in discussion. Soon Maniac would have visitors.
All good out here, Lance? All good, Big D. That's good. I'm nearly done here with Flasher Boy. That's good. He showed you anything yet? Not yet.
Fed up with Big D lingering, Anders decided to take action. Many people, most of the town at least, had already seen him naked, he thought, so what harm was one more? It's obviously what he wants. I'll give the pervert what he wants, he thought. Take action, let him have it. Suddenly he stood up, his t-shirt dropped and he began thrusting his pelvis forward and backward, his penis swinging between his thighs like a pendulum. But Big D was still head and shoulders in the corridor. He saw nothing. Then, low on water, dizzy and hungover and reconsidering his whole life, Anders found he was staggering backwards, and just as quickly, he was up. He was soon back down again, falling onto the mattress in a panic.
Need to go, Big D said. Need to take a leak.
He came back inside, unzipped over the bowl, and began urinating. Anders put the t-shirt back as it was, eyes scanning the cell for CCTV cameras, suddenly worried a double case of indecent exposure would be heading his way. His cheeks reddened, he gasped, taking a breath, reassuring himself there were no cameras. No one had seen him. He was okay, he hoped.
Hey, what's the idea?
Big D said, zipping up again, kicking the toilet bowl.
That's a pathetic, dirty protest, he said. That's the idea. Good work, Disciple, Maniac said, jumping on his mattress. Now tell the clown he can lay a third. 3 in a row,
Maniac chanted.
3 in a row.
Then he paused. He tapped his teeth with his knuckles.
Hang on, what is he saying is pathetic?
Maniac jumped off his mattress, barefooted, trampling in his own mess.
What you done in there, Disciple? What you done?
I've not used the toilet, Anders said. I guess the previous occupier dropped it there.
Big D ignored him, now tugging the long chain side of the water tank. He sweated, damp patches showed on his shirt. He paused now and then, watching a trickle of water with each tug on the chain.
It's going! It's stubborn, but it's going!
He kept tugging.
It's gone,
he said.
Now it's back! It's broken in 2!
Maybe there's a blockage,
Anders said.
I bet,
Big D said, looking down into the bowl.
And you did it. Nothing a few cherry bombs wouldn't sort,
Maniac added, wiping his toes dry on the brickwork.
Are you and that idiot plumbing experts now?
Big D said, waiting for the water tank to top up.
I was being helpful,
Anders said.
Be helpful by shutting up.
Big D put his ear on the water tank. He held the chain with a double grip, yanking it.
Your dropping got us into this mess.
He kept yanking, but no flush came. He yanked harder. The chain broke, and he threw it to one side. Squatting now, peering over the bowl.
Stone the crows,
he said, stepping out of the cell, reappearing a moment later with his sleeve pushed up to his elbows, toilet plunger in hand.
Need any help?
Anders asked.
No,
Big D said, pointing the plunger at him.
You stay back. You've done enough damage.
He faced side to side, moved his chin up and down, neck muscles cracking with each turn. Then he removed his aviators and put them inside his top pocket, ready for business. Anders stayed seated, watching him. His shoulders were going now, and he began jabbing with the plunger.
Huh, huh, huh,
he said, thrusting the plunger in and out of the water.
Huh, get some, huh, huh, Ha! Get some! Get some!
Water splashed over the sides of the bowl. Chewing gum dropped from Big D's mouth as he jabbed, mashing it good.
Ha! Get some! Ha! Ha!
He went on, repeating himself that way, sounding like an over-enthusiastic, trigger-happy Yank in a Vietnam War film.
What's going on in there?
Maniac asked, slapping both hands on the wall.
I've a right to know.
Something tapped his glass window, and Lance faced him, pointing his baton at Maniac's face. Maniac grinned, showing small teeth.
Got something for me, you pasty-faced bitch?
Last warning, Lance said. Keep it shut or we'll drag you over to the penthouse suite with the rest of the fruitcakes. You'll be in the hands of the whitecoats there.
Step inside,
Maniac said, holding his grin.
I'll put that stick up your ass sideways.
Lance faced away. He watched the other guards stepping into plastic suits and rubber boots. Then he faced back again, wearing a ratty grin.
Reckon you could do that to 4 people at the same time?
He laughed, walking away, running the baton across each door he passed, whistling. Meanwhile, Big D stood breathing heavily. He had one arm rested on the brickwork and his other by his side, plunger swaying between his fingertips. More damp patches marked his shirt, a mixture of sweat and toilet water. Anders listened to the baton and the whistling outside his cell, then to Maniac asking what was going on in cell 5. Big D then straightened himself. He was going for round 2.
Get some! Get some!
Water suddenly erupted like a volcano of shit and piss. Big D stepped back and fell over, then began shuffling backwards on the floor, pushing his way on his palms, dragging his backside over the concrete. Puddles of waste touched his boots and he sprung up, staggering out of the cell. He locked Anders inside.
Let me out!
Anders said, lifting his feet onto his mattress and looking down, seeing all kinds of nasty stuff swishing around him. Tears formed in his eyes. He curled up with one hand over his mouth.
Let me out!
Maniac began clapping. He ran to the door, pressing his face on it. He watched the raw sewage passing along the corridor.
Yeah, yeah,
he said, stepping onto his mattress.
Not pathetic now.
He laughed.
You showed him, disciple. You did good.
Then he was coughing, running to the corner of his cell, covering his face with his hands.
Struth,
he said, watching sewage flow through a gap under his door.
What you been eating?
Final warning, cell 4, I mean it,
Lance shouted, now stood on his plastic chair with his fingers pressed to his nostrils, watching the corridor turn into a brown canal. Anders rolled side to side on his mattress, as though being suffocated by an invisible man.
Dress,
he heard Big D saying from somewhere.
Get dressed.
Anders looked around through his hazy, steamed-up lenses. He cleared them with his thumbs, gagged at the horrible smells, which was like a combination of sour cabbage and ammonia.
Let me out,
he shouted. No one answered him. He picked up the t-shirt that smelt nearly as bad as the sewage, and still gagging, brought it down over his head. In a rush, he accidentally caught his head inside the sleeve. It tightened around his face. He struggled to breathe.
You're making hard work of that, slugger.
Big D grinned through the window. Anders heard him, but couldn't see anything. He whipped his head one way, then another. The linen of the sleeve, pressed tight over his nose and lips, was as though he was wearing a gimp mask. Keeping one hand on his testicles, he used the other to work the sleeve with his fingers, pinching and pulling it.
Want any help?
Big D asked, nose touching the peephole.
No,
Anders answered, as fast as he could, sounding muffled.
Go away, please. Give me an update, disciple,
Maniac said, mattress between his arms, using it to push shit and piss back under his door.
What's the clown doing? He gone quiet on us?
I'm gonna fetch your eggs now, Big D said.
I don't want them,
Anders said, ducking out to the sleeve.
I'm not hungry. That's good, Maniac said. Don't take anything. These bastards will lace your food. Some years ago they got me good. They took me to a facility somewhere in the outback. This Greek doctor did all sorts on me. God knows what, but boy oh boy, it was bad. I remember crapping out toy cars for a whole week. After that, I blew the place up and escaped. You know, still crapping though, crapping stuff out for weeks. And that began with a spoonful of porridge, so don't trust them.
The team were ready now. They marched down the corridor, their rubber boots swishing through the sewage, pausing outside Maniac's cell, dressed in plastic suits, hoods up, goggles and face masks on. They spoke in low voices, making gestures with their gloved hands.
I want out, Maniac demanded. I can handle my own, but Disciple had to blow a gasket.
He paced up and down, shadow-boxed, fists clenched.
I want an Uzi 9mm, he demanded. I want boomsticks.
His cheeks were turning red now.
Disciple and Clown, be ready, the both of you.
His door swung inward, crashing on the brickwork. One after the other, they rushed in, and he backed up, hissing and throwing punches. He got one against the wall, pulling on his goggles and mask. One guard stayed in the doorway, looking everywhere and doing nothing. Another grabbed the back of Maniac's wrists and helped set his partner free, who now, with goggles and masks below his chin, grabbed Maniac's legs. The fourth guard watched for a while before taser gunning him. Maniac's body was in spasms instantly on the wet floor. The man by the door, who until now had done nothing, held a syringe and took off Maniac's shorts.
Bastards!
With the injection complete, the man stepped back and waited for Maniac to go still. This took only seconds, and within a few more seconds, they'd strapped him to a trolley and were wheeling him away.
You done?
Big D asked, tapping his keys on the square of the glass.
Yes,
Anders answered sharply, not bothering to turn or look up at him.
Good, I better get those eggs then,
Big D said.
You ordered scrambled, right?
Anders didn't answer. He knew the man was either stupid, insane, or winding him up. He guessed stupid and stared blankly at the raw sewage that surrounded him. When he faced up again, Big D was gone.
Wait,
he said quickly.
Can someone get me another cell?
You did it, fella,
a voice said from the corridor.
I'd rather be doing better things with my day, he said. That Cuban missile you launched, that brick, it messed up the whole block. All the cells are shitty thanks to you.